sweat and strong-willed, and Macron knows it. A leading global company with Italian DNA in the production and sale of sportswear, when Macron first entered the sports world in 1971, it was a small yet strong player. Since then, Macron has been growing at a very fast pace, supporting teams, sportsmen and women at all levels, working hard to supply them with the best technical products to help improve their performances. With over 4 million pieces of stock available in our Italian warehouse and an extensive range of on-field, off-field and free-time products, we cater for everyone from amateurs to professional sporting organisations, even referees. Ranked third most prominent football brand by the UEFA, Macron keeps expanding its presence worldwide, including Australia, where we are currently proud partners of Perth Glory, Macarthur FC, Port Adelaide and Parramatta Eels, and more to come. Work hard, play harder, Macron, your next teamwear partner. For more information, visit our website at www.macronvic.com.au or call us on 1800 Macron.
The best in authentic Maltese cuisine? Then you need to dine at Georgie's on Vista. Situated in the heart of Fraser Eyes, you can't go wrong when it comes to family dining. We have a menu for mum and dad, one for the kids, and one for seniors. Everyone's taken care of. Don't miss our specialty nights. Tuesday night is Parma night, where you get to choose from not one, but 5 different Parmas. Wednesday night, kids eat free with every paying adult meal. Thursday night is Members Night, where members get the chance to win some great prizes. And Friday night, join us for happy hour between 5:30pm to 7:30pm. Jim, Johnny, Jack and their little brother Schooner are only $5 each. Looking to get an early start Friday afternoon for a punt? Our sports bar with TAB is open from 3pm Friday afternoons. To book your table, email info@georgiesonvista.com.au. Bring the family and come dine at Georgie's on Vista, 46 City Vista Court, Fraser Eyes, Plumpton.
Good evening and thank you very much for joining us here on the Football Out West show. It is episode 79. My name is Tonchi Prusak. I'm one of 3 co-hosts tonight. It is a big show, as is always the case and has been for the last few weeks. And it may be deep into the off season, but there is so much going on and so much to talk about. A big welcome to the program to one of the 3 co-hosts, Craig Filer. Good evening, Craig. Always great to have you on the show each week, tuning in at this time of the Sunday evening. Mate, we've got a big show planned tonight again.
Yeah, we have. Following on from the last couple of weeks, I suppose, and the debacle is that got what's going on at Football Federation at the moment. So well, I'm sure we'll be able to delve more into that as the show goes on, mate. Yes.
We will indeed, and helping us bring all the latest issues, views, news to you all, dear listeners, dear viewers, is the third member of our illustrious trio, Steve Curtin. Steve, a very, very warm welcome to you, mate. How are you, and how's your weekend been?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Tonchi. Good evening. Good evening, Craig, as well, and to everyone tuning in. Thanks for joining us tonight on what is a busy weekend. We've got Matilda's games going on last night. We've got 4 massive derbies across the 4 big leagues in Europe all happening. So we certainly appreciate you choosing to spend your time with us this evening on an otherwise busy weekend. But it's been a nice weekend. I feel like I'm a bit pasty at the moment. I might have got a bit of sunburn or maybe windburn today, but it was good to get outside either way. So good to be back on the show again now.
Yeah, it is the season of hay fever and what you're not, but it's also now with the newfound I suppose restricted freedom and what you're not. People, particularly Melbourne, are able to get around and about and have a few house parties and things like that. And Craig, you had a bit of a fun time last night.
Bit of a bash.
One. Still recovering.
No, I'm actually all right. It's I'm just feel a little bit achy today, but that was probably due to trying to do the couple of we'll just leave it there. It was a good night.
Was there any dance moves pulled out last night or anything? Or
sorry?
Any dance moves pulled out or something?
Yeah, we had a few, Steve. We had a few. We had the karaoke out, and we had a few bottles of Sambuca, and it got a bit messy. But that's what being in lockdown does to you for 264 days, mate. So you let your inhibitions go. Even got my wife up singing last night. I've never heard her singing 28 years we've been together. So she didn't last very long. But shut the electric off.
We'll leave it at that.
All the cats were crying. Everything was going on.
We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Just before you do move on, we just can I say congratulations as well, Tonch, on your new headphones?
They look good,
don't
they?
You borrowed them off your kids.
You know what? I actually had a white cap on before and it looked like a helmet. And I thought, oh, geez, hang on, I better change the cap. So I'm wearing one of the black caps. And mind you, this is one of our Football Out West logo caps, whatever. Part of our sponsorship deal with Macron Victoria, who are our sponsors for tonight. A very good segue into our sponsors for tonight. Macron Victoria and Giacomo Carulli. Already planning for next year. Big news with Macron Victoria recently, or Macron, I should say, recently announcing that they are the third biggest apparel provider in Europe after Nike and Adidas. And now, Steve, that's not a bad effort. But here in Australia, bit by bit, Macron are starting to get their name. So we're proud to be associated with.
Yeah, I've seen the Eastern Lions jumped on board the Macron train this week. So there's a good announcement for the team out there from the East. And I was going to say on those headphones, if you got a pair of Craig's trainers, they would match perfectly.
Enough of the fashion stakes. Let's get on with the show. And speaking of our sponsors, a massive shout out to our major sponsor for this year. They've had a really tough year in more ways than one. Obviously being involved in the hospitality industry, but the Caroline Springs George Cross Football Club, home of the award-winning Georgie's on Vista Bistro there in Caroline Springs, folks. Now that we're slowly opening up, if you are around the area, support the Georgie's on Vista Bistro, an absolutely fantastic place. Mark Sultana and the rest of the gang down there, I'm sure will look after you, and it is good to see bit by bit football returning. But let's get straight into the news, Steve. And look, speaking of football returning, last night in Sydney, we had the crowds return as well with the Matildas. Tell us more about what happened on there.
Yeah, 15,000 people turned up to Combank Stadium, as it's now known, in Parramatta to see a entertaining match. I think they all left thoroughly entertained, and I think just the experience of being at a live match with a big crowd in Sydney would have been something to last long in the memory for everyone who turned up there and see some of the best female players in the world. And we got the 3-1 win as well, goals from Claire Polkinghorn, who was unselfishly set up by Sam Kerr, who you can see on your picture there, and Mary Fowler. Well, she's just going to be a superstar. She already is. She got on the score sheet. And Emily Van Egmond, who had to come off the bench, she got an 80th minute goal, and she's always good to pop up for a goal at a key time to seal the game, as it was 2-1 at the time, and certainly in the balance after Adriana had scored after a bit of a defensive mix-up or slip-up by Alana Kennedy, who played her 100th game for the Matildas and got to wear the armband to recognise the occasion. So that was good. And they played, I think, a reasonable game. It's something different. We saw Kyra Cooney-Cross slot into a number 6 role, which is a little bit deeper than what she plays for or when she's with the Victory. So that was something a bit different. So we'll see if they persist with her in that role, but that would certainly free up the likes of Emily Van Egmond to play a little bit higher up the field, which is where she's most damaging, as we saw when she came on. So another game to go on Tuesday night, and they'll rotate the deck as well. And Brazil might go a bit harder this time and unleash Marta from the first whistle. And I think we'll have a very interesting game, and we'll see what Tony Gustafsson does in the second occasion, because I think he was pretty happy with his first game on Australian soil and his first time in Australia.
Yeah.
What was the crowd like, Steve?
Yeah, 15,000.
15,000, okay.
So
Pretty
not too
good.
bad.
And now to further add to the buoyant mood, I guess, the Matildas welcome 2 new players to the fold with hometown players Remy Simpson and Briley Henry also coming on for their respective debuts. So it was good to see the next generation or the product of the NPLW system as well coming through the ranks. So future certainly looks bright as far as the Matildas is concerned. Yep, that second game on Tuesday. So good to have live football back in action. And, FFA Cup as well. We're going to have a glut of catch-up games happening in November, both locally. But, Steve, we saw a game played earlier today. In fact, just half an hour ago, that game was wound up in Brisbane. And it was a bit of almost like a intra-club game because Brisbane Lions and Brisbane Roar, I think the Brisbane Lions, traditionally a Dutch club, were sort of the founders of the Queensland Roar, which has morphed into the Brisbane Roar. But that was an interesting game played up at Brisbane, up until about half-time, that is. What happened afterwards?
Yeah. And just quickly back on that Matildas game as well, Henry, she's only played 11 W League games as well. So that's very impressive, a meteoric rise. But yeah, moving on to the FFA Cup, as you say. And yeah, look, it was a good match. And I think the first half, particularly, as you see the scoreline there, 4-0, the first half was, it didn't show a huge gulf between the NPL Queensland side and the A-League side, to be honest. I thought that they did pretty well. And there was, I guess, a bit of a Victorian angle in that Queensland Lion side as well. You saw Jean Carlos Solozano, who's, a former Victory player. And we saw Finn Beakhurst, who's played a lot of football in NPL Victoria with Port Melbourne and the Bentley Green. So it was, some pretty talented players in this Queensland Lions side. But yeah, the hero of the day ended up being 19-year-old Cyrus Demi, who scored a hat-trick to certainly seal the deal after Corey Brown had scored an early penalty kick. So Cyrus Demi, he's looking the good so far. And we'll see if he can maybe hold his spot when the A-League season starts. He's only 19 years of age, Ivory Coast-born player. So he looked very impressive and clinical in front of goal.
Now, on a sad note, during the week, we saw the sudden passing of referee legend here in Victoria, Harry Millis. Steve, got more information about that?
Yeah, sad news. He's a very well-loved character, and you can see just all the tributes coming out on social media after the news broke. He's been involved refereeing for Football Victoria since 1998, providing 23 years of service as a ref, and he's championed a lot of great causes like the Victoria Police Soccer Team, the Pride Football campaign, the Reagan Milson Foundation, and he's done a lot of work around the homeless World Cup space as well as I think volunteering a lot of his time to mentor young referees, as you can see in that picture there. So very, very sad loss, and one of those personalities that you just simply can't replace. So definitely our condolences to everyone who's touched by the passing of Harry Millis.
Yeah, now there was a press there's a press release on the Football Victoria website. And that photo is taken from the actual Football Victoria website. And it's saying, so the football community is mourning the passing of the tragic passing. So we obviously don't know what happened there. He must have been sick. But it talks about the type of person he was, and people that did know him personally will certainly attest to that fact. But there's a really interesting story here of just showing the type of person he was. And I'll read it word for word. It says, on one particular occasion during the 2008 Homeless World Cup in Melbourne, Harry was officiating a game between Russia and Croatia. During play, a Russian player committed a particularly hard foul that was worthy of instant dismissal. While most referees would charge in and brandish a red card high above their head, Harry made a snap decision to take a different approach. In an act of empathy, seeing as this may humiliate the player publicly, Harry chose to tread delicately. Realising the man had likely been through many hardships during his life, he quietly pulled the player aside and firmly but graciously administered a red card in a way that allowed the player to remain dignified. After the match, the removed player sincerely thanked Harry for his approach. Now, that one little story, I think, tells you a lot about. And a lot of people don't necessarily connect referees with kind-hearted, empathetic people. But the late Harry Millis was certainly an incredible man. I didn't know him personally, but my hearts and soul, prayers and thoughts go out with his family and everyone who did know him in the Victorian football community. Craig, any thoughts about? Did you know?
No, it's very
Did you
sad.
ever run into Harry?
No, it's always sad when you lose a personality from any walk of life. And I was speaking to somebody this week who worked very closely with Harry, and he was devastated. So, as everybody said, thoughts and wishes go out to the whole family.
Yeah. Now, Steve, before we go on to speaking of Football Victoria, before we talk about the issue that is the big issue at the moment, the hot topic, let's stick to a few more news items. But MacArthur FC, there's a bit of rumblings there amongst MacArthur FC. What is going on at MacArthur FC?
Yeah, it's not looking too good there. So what we've seen is Mark Milligan has decided to depart the club from his coaching role. So he's no longer involved. And it sounds like, from what we're hearing, is that he's had some differences with the direction of the club and the direction of the football department. So he's going to focus his time onto his new role with Paramount Plus and Channel 10. And so it sounds like, yes, it's not all rosy behind the scenes there, but just to add to that as well, as you can see on the screen there, as this article that was brought to our attention over the weekend, Adam Federici's announced his retirement almost with little fanfare. He's still suffering some injuries. He's not going to be able to make it out onto the field, so he's decided to call time on his career as well. So certainly a big loss in terms of an extremely experienced player, as we said, him performing at a very high level in the UK for a long time at some of their top clubs at the time over there, like Reading and some of the Socceroos appearances as well. Yeah, it's very sad way to go out.
As a captain as well, wasn't he? Just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And look, that comes hot on the heels of the game that was held behind closed doors, where they got absolutely walloped 5-0 by Sydney FC. So I'm not too sure if that has got any connection there, or if that's part of the behind the scenes instability, or whatever you want to call it. But speaking of instability and speaking of stuff that is happening behind the scenes, Craig, where do we start with this one? Football Victoria during the week came out with a press release about what it intends to do. Hey, take it away.
Took me into the bus, Don.
What do you think about this?
I'm just going from person to person. I'm just mixing it up. But give us a rundown of what actually happened. And there's on the actual screen there, we've got a copy of the site. Just give us the information, the news, and we'll talk about the actual issue later on when Zac Gruevski, our chairman of the United Clubs of Victoria, he's going to be coming on again. Sorry, folks, I forgot to say that. He will be coming on. In fact, he's in the green room. He will be coming on with all the latest updated information as to what is going on with all of this. But Craig, give us just sort of a very quick rundown of what this press release entailed.
Yeah, well, obviously everybody's fully aware of what's been going on regarding the potential promotion, relegation, or restructuring, as the United Clubs of Victoria proposed to Football Federation. That was unequivocally put on the back burner last week, and then the following, Monday afternoon, came up with a restructure. So on one hand, they're saying we can't do a restructure, and then on the other hand, they're taking that away and giving another restructure based on the fact that St Kilda Celts in State League One are no longer. So there's a place up for grabs in that league, which is a little bit strange because they actually, I don't think it was the beginning of this season. I think it was the latter part of last season. They actually went through and stopped. So yeah, it's all a bit of a, I don't know, I'd say a game, but it's not a game because it's pretty serious. But the Football Federation have come out that it will proceed with filling existing and resulting vacancies across men and women's state league competitions in accordance with the 2021 rules of competition.
Yeah, and the NPL Victoria optimal league structures to be considered from the 2023 season. Now, that seems very ambiguous. I'm not too sure what that actual word means. There's the women's side of it. So the following existing and resulting vacancies will be filled ahead of the 2022 season. Steve, take us very quickly through this.
Yeah, so you can see the table there. And what it means as well is when you look at that for the women's game as well, we're going to have NPLW with only 8 teams again, which is gone a bit stale. It needs a bit of variety. And, we had some good clubs in the tier below that in the the new VPLW.
VPLW.
That were doing well, and they've been treated. Obviously the season was not completed, but yeah, it's like a closed shop at the moment. Anyway, they're not giving them the chance to step up into that top tier, and you'd think we'd want to have at least at a minimum 10 teams in the top tier.
Well, we've discussed that, Steve, haven't we, over the last couple of weeks?
Absolutely.
With the World Cup coming up, it's imperative that we get to 10 teams. But
and there's such a difference at the moment between those NPLW teams and, say, for example, the VPLW or even further down State 1. There's such a big gap now. If you've got teams that were clearly very dominant in the state VPLW competition, as it was the case this year, you'd be putting those teams, you'd be promoting those teams, moving them up into a higher competition and getting the best of the state league into this VPLW to really move the standard of the football. But at the moment, not only is it going to sort of stagnate, I think it'll go backwards. Now, Craig, if we have a look at the men's competition, probably not as, it won't be as radically different as the women, but that's simply because there's just more vacancies in the women's competitions. But, one team per...
It's moving one up. It's moving one up from every division to cover St Kilda. So, and as Brenton Ray has put in the comments there, promoted to State 1 will be FC Strathmore. Into 2 from Division 3 will be Upfield, 3 Noble Park, and State League 4 will be Keilor Wolves.
And the other thing is on that as well, on that note that Brenton sent through, we haven't had a press release confirming confirming those clubs. It would be good to see something come out just, confirming who the actual clubs are, because it's a little bit ambiguous at the moment.
Well, it says there, Football Victoria will conclude this process by 5 p.m. Monday, 25th of October, which is tomorrow. Providing time to implement these changes ahead of the 2022 season. But as I think it's Mark Sultana, president of Caroline Springs George Cross, said in the comments section, it was announced on Tuesday, 4 days after the original decision was made. So they may make the decision by 5 p.m. Monday, but when are they actually going to officially announce it? Now, gents, we did approach Football Victoria this week to get them to come on the show. Craig, what happened?
They said no.
Basically, yeah.
So no, we sent an email to Antonella Carr, the president chairwoman of Football Victoria, and unfortunately she had other gatherings tonight or event that she was doing, and we also tried to get Kim on, and Kim also just basically said that there's nothing more to say, and at this point they didn't want to come on and say anything, which is disappointing from our side, because I think there's a lot of stuff that needs debating, not just can't just brush it under the carpet and say it's all done. So pretty frustrating that we can't get the governing body to come on and give us the reasons why they've done what they've done.
Yeah. So it's a statement from Kim Taliadoros. Thanks for the kind offer. However, Football Victoria has nothing further to add at this stage. Looking forward to getting back out there not long now. So we did our best to try and get Football Victoria on to explain what the situation was all about. Unfortunately, as Craig stated there, they politely declined, both the chairperson and the CEO. But as a result, we have got Zac Gruevski, who's coming on the show again. I think it's his third week in a row.
He's a co-host now.
He's a co-host. I'm going to have to promote him to co-host. Yeah, but he will be on the show very, very shortly. In fact, we might take a break, guys. It's already 25 past the hour. We'll bring on Zac straight after the show, and then later on in the show who have we got coming on the show?
Drum roll.
I can't say his name, so do you want to say his name?
Steve, you want to have a go?
Daniel Pagnoccolo.
Daniel Pagnoccolo, yep. He'll be coming on to talk about the Serie A competition, and we'll also talk about the EPL results overnight, because, Steve, there were, 24, 25 goals from 6 games last night?
27 in 6.
Unbelievable. So we definitely will be talking a lot about that. So folks, don't go away. We'll be back very, very shortly after this break. When we return, it's the president of the United Clubs of Victoria, and he's seething. He's angry, and he'll let us know all about it. Zac Gruevski will be joining us.
The best in authentic Maltese cuisine? Then you need to dine at Georgie's on Vista. Situated in the heart of Fraser Eyes, you can't go wrong when it comes to family dining. We have a menu for mum and dad, one for the kids, and one for seniors. Everyone's taken care of. Don't miss our specialty nights. Tuesday night is Parma night, where you get to choose from not one, but 5 different Parmas. Wednesday night, kids eat free with every paying adult meal. Thursday night is Members Night, where members get the chance to win some great prizes. And Friday night, join us for happy hour between 5:30pm to 7:30pm. Jim, Johnny, Jack and their little brother Schooner are only $5 each. Looking to get an early start Friday afternoon for a punt? Our sports bar with TAB is open from 3pm Friday afternoons. To book your table, email info@georgiesonvista.com.au. Bring the family and come dine at Georgie's on Vista, 46 City Vista Court, Fraser Eyes, Plumpton.
Welcome back to the Football Out West show. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome to the show our very, very, very special guest and our newest co-host, if you like, Zac Gruevski. Zac, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, mate. Well, first of all, your initial thoughts about what Football Victoria this week came out with.
Tonchi, good evening. Thank you again for having me. I'm probably not that capable, mate, to be a co-host with you fine gentlemen. But good evening to yourself, obviously, Craig, and to Stephen. And obviously to your wonderful listeners and viewers, I guess, on this program.
Yeah.
Look, my initial response is we're clearly, obviously, extremely disappointed. This is a family program, so I'm going to hold my language and remain professional as we have done all along. But it's, look, and even I clearly heard you guys talking about the invitation to Football Victoria to join this program tonight to actually explain their decision and their reasoning as to why they've come up with that. It just shows the further disrespect and disdain for football in this state. We as a group, as I said, tried to remain professional throughout this whole process. There's several bits of correspondence that we'd sent to them, requesting at least the courtesy of a response. All those responses went unanswered, and again, that's just another sign of the disrespect they show towards the game and towards our clubs. And look, some of our viewers and I guess your listeners might argue, look, just get on with the guys. The sour grapes. The decision didn't go your way, but it's not about that. We've been on a journey with Football Victoria, or we thought we'd been on a journey with them, where we'd worked extremely hard with them to try and find a resolution to this issue. And look, obviously, congratulations to those clubs that will have the opportunity to be promoted. Despite Football Victoria not wanting to use that word promotion, there will be a number of clubs who were actually, in fact, part of our United Football Group, and congratulations to them. They did say they're going to announce it on Monday. Well, let's see. They gave us a commitment that they were going to make an announcement on the Friday after the Thursday evening board meeting, but clearly that didn't happen. And so there's a trust that's been absolutely broken here with football, and it's just absolutely disgraceful behaviour that's been shown again and again. And people who've been around long enough in the game will argue, well, why are we surprised by this sort of behaviour? Why I'm surprised is because of the efforts and the respect that we as a group showed Football Federation Victoria, and this is, I guess, what we got in return.
Steve?
And Zac, after we chatted this time last week and we were expecting to hear some news, maybe some positive news the following day, that press release came out later was it Monday afternoon when that came out? Tuesday afternoon. Yeah. Had you received any other communication at all to say what was happening? Because even when that press release did come out, it really didn't address the matters that you're discussing, because those changes probably would have happened anyway, despite this, because they needed to fill those leagues anyway, regardless.
Absolutely, they would have happened, Stephen. And again, let me use that word disrespect and disdain for the clubs who had been working with them for 6 or 7 weeks. Would you not think you'd say, listen, we have had we've been in discussion with a large group of clubs for this many weeks. We'd like to address that, and this is how we'd like to address that. But again, no respect whatsoever. So, look, if I can maybe share with your listeners and with you guys, the lead up of the event to the board meeting, which was, we definitely know the board meeting was held on the Thursday evening, late afternoon, early evening, and we were in regular communication with them leading up to that. And that regular communication, I'm not talking with with someone in administration who had nothing to do with this. I'm talking about people who represent the board, members of the board and senior management team, who made it extremely clear that a position was being put to the board around restructure. I mean, otherwise, what was all the work that they were doing 2 or 3 weeks earlier? Why did they waste their time and our time for the last 2 or 3 weeks leading up to that board meeting if they had no intention of actually considering a restructure? They were very clear they weren't interested in promotion and relegation, so that's fine. We weren't opposed to that. We get that. And so leading up to that board meeting, we were extremely positive that a decision was going to be made that was favourable for the clubs, that would see some form of restructure. As you rightly said, they've already come out now to say there will be some restructure that occurs. It's filling vacancies. That's fine. So why didn't they share the courage and the leadership that they had the opportunity to do, and give clubs a little bit of hope? We've just been smashed as clubs for 2 seasons, and this is the response that we get from a federation who's supposed to be leaders for us. So including that evening, on that Thursday evening, I messaged a board member, and it was clear from that message that there was a decision from the board, clearly had been made. The tone of the message, whilst wasn't categorical, the tone of the message to me was that it sounded that a positive decision may have been made. However, when I was seeking some clarity on that, and maybe to share something with us a little bit earlier, I was told that the decision would be embargoed, and that the management team, including Kim On, had been asked to communicate the announcement or that decision that had been made on the Thursday night on the Friday. Categoric, absolutely categoric. No confusion about a decision being announced on Friday. I've got that in a message. So let's talk about then the embargo of this decision. Within minutes or hours of that, depending on whose phones you look at, of that decision supposedly being embargoed, we're already getting Football Victoria zone reps and senior clubs sending messages around to indicate that a decision had been made by Football Victoria. We understood it had been made in the positive for the clubs, that some form of restructure was going to happen, and that the board voted 4-3 for that decision. Now, it's clear something else has then happened. Now, okay, so this is now the position that that this group of ours will continue to take. This is not going to go down. We're not lying down, particularly when you have these sorts of things occur. Friday, we're advised that decision would be announced. We get to Friday late afternoon, and I'm talking from the board chair and also the CEO, advice that the decision now will not be made, would be announced Monday. Okay, well, clearly many of us were pretty peeved by that. And again, so look at the disrespect being shown. We wait till Monday patiently. We get through a weekend, and the decision still is not announced on Monday. And regardless of how many messages and bits of communication we send to them, just total disregard and ignoring the group. And we think this is how we lead football in this state. Absolutely disgraceful behaviour.
Zach, just quickly before you go on there,
go for it.
The zone reps that you spoke about.
Yep.
How are they involved? Not in the decision from the board, but what? How do they become involved in clubs? Obviously, they're there to help and service the clubs. What role do they have in all of this?
Well, normally, as a zone rep, I guess you would be elected to look after your clubs in your region. I know from the majority of the clubs that I've spoken, they've got no idea who their zone rep is and that any contact would be made with their clubs. So clearly these are people who have been elected in some fashion to roles. And as I said earlier, we have evidence, obviously, of a zone rep and some pretty senior people from some clubs through MPL 1 who had clearly communicated amongst themselves that a decision had been made. Now, that was within, as I say, depending on whose phone you look at, that was within minutes or within hours. It was that evening, on that Thursday evening. So if we're talking about embargoes in integrity of a process and integrity of a decision, I mean, as a board member, as a former board member, I would have been absolutely horrified that sort of information got out until such time as we communicated that as a board to the broader football family. So
just sorry, Tom, just on that, on those zone reps there. So obviously, you say some of those representatives are involved in NPL 1 clubs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, these people don't operate in isolation. You know, we've got standing committee members, we've got zone reps, we've got a range of people. I think there's 28 members who have been elected to those roles, who are supposedly there to represent clubs, but clearly somehow have access. So despite us requesting the information, we're asked to, we're told the decision was embargoed. Somehow, some of this information, now we don't know whether the information's been leaked or how it's been leaked, but how does this sort of information get out so quickly? And then 4 days later, so what happens on a Friday, over a weekend, and then on a Monday? Mind you, it took until a Tuesday, 4 days later, for an announcement to be made by Football Victoria. So what went on in those 4 days? And look, that's part of the next phase of what we're going to test as a group. We've been very clear that, and again, this is not about sour grapes. This is about being fair to the clubs. We've tried to find a sensible resolution. We will pursue this further, and we're in the process of doing that and taking counsel to take the next steps. And really, for us now, it's about let's have a closer look at how this process has been run, how the decision has potentially been compromised. Now, I don't know that it's been compromised, but we're going to test that. And we'll take, as I say, counsel to interrogate how we've arrived where we are, particularly given the number of commitments that have been made by Football Victoria in the lead up to that.
Yeah. So we're looking at the whole process, and you've explained it quite eloquently there. The whole process involved, and it's been sort of stalling after stalling after stalling with regards to announcing the decision. But there's also obviously issues there of an internal leak. And we know that there's obviously something has been leaking. So something is not right there. Now, you've mentioned, Zac, that the next step now is to start exploring your options, you're not going to take it lying down. Now, does that mean all of the clubs involved in the United Clubs of Victoria are behind this, or has there been any sort of splinter, I won't say splinter kind of movement, or has the group sort of divided into two, or is everyone still very much united as far as this next step is now concerned?
Look, I mean, the group may be somewhat smaller. There's definitely no splintering. I mean, the number of calls and emails I've had over the weekend has been phenomenal. We, in fact, met that Tuesday evening as a group of clubs, and the position from that conversation was extremely clear. The clubs will not rest on this decision. This is a nothing decision. In fact, they didn't have the courtesy to even address the decision and explain, as they haven't been able to this evening. Mm-hmm. You know, Craig's obviously done that, and the show's done the right thing to invite both the president and also the CEO. I mean, this has been a hot topic of debate. You know, like you rightly said, I've been on here 3 weeks. You guys have spoken about it pretty much every week. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And to show that level of disrespect and disdain for our football community is just somewhat embarrassing. And so we need to be clear on what has transpired here, because if on the one hand we believe some of what we understand to be accurate on the Thursday night, for that then to be turned around and we have a reversal of a decision, and then it's announced on Tuesday afternoon, late Tuesday afternoon, something doesn't sound quite right.
So where does that leave the focus now? Will it be, one, to try and investigate what's happened over those days, and two, also to try and get the decision over the line, if that's still possible at all? Or will the focus be to get transparency as to what's actually happened?
Well, it's probably going to be a combination of things, Stephen. We're going to continue the fights. As I said, we're taking legal counsel right now as to our next steps and our next avenues that we can pursue. We've been in those conversations clearly in recent days, and a large number of our clubs are fully committed to supporting that process. At the same time, we will explore through those means how we've arrived at this decision. I mean, the football public needs to understand, how do we get to this? And okay, it's clear Football Victoria doesn't want to explain this. They've been given an opportunity this evening, and they've declined that offer. And that, to me, suggests something is not quite right. Something's not quite right.
Zac, I'll try and bring this up on screen. So this is the first page of the press release now. I just want to ask you something now, whether you know, because that third paragraph there, with the 2021 season being deemed incomplete, only men's and women's state league vacancies will be filled in 2022, right? But then the next part of that says, with NPL Victoria optimal league structures to be considered from the 2023 season. Now, is that referring to from the 2023 season, they'll start considering and talking maybe for the 2024 season? Or are they talking next year they'll have the discussion to implement for the 2023 season? And if that's the case, has any indication been given to you or to any of the clubs that before the season starts next year, we'll know exactly what awaits us at the end of the 2022 season?
Tonchi, absolutely no communication. It would have been nice if they came on tonight to explain not only their lack of a decision in the matter that we've been pursuing with them, but also this. I mean, that's absolutely not clear to us as to what commitment they're making or not. It doesn't look like much of a commitment. They'd made a commitment, and part of the conversations we've already had, they were committed to 14 teams in NPL2 for 2020. That's documented. That's not us as clubs making these things up. The 9th of August, they produced a document that they shared with all the clubs. They were jumping up and down about rounds 10 and 11 being played, and it was crucial that this be played. Why was that so important? They'd made every commitment. They'd made every commitment to the women's program. You know, here we are talking and celebrating the fantastic victory of our Matildas last night. It's absolutely disgraceful that our game next year, we're going to have 8 clubs in our top tier of football in Victoria. Absolutely disgraceful. There's no other way you can describe this. And we have a group of people who are supposedly our leaders don't want to talk about it. What are they concerned about? Look, I'm absolutely staggered, and I've got no idea, to answer your specific question, Tonchi. No idea about anything. As I said, there's been at least three written forms of communication that have not been responded to from the group.
Steve.
There's all sorts of comments in the comment section at the moment. Jeff West says, can us 40-plus clubs go on strike in 2022 for the FFA Cup, Night Cup, and then maybe something has to be done? Mutlu Oztaz says, count each club in our United group roughly with players, spectators, junior members with 1,000 people, 40 clubs of thousands. They're all doing the sums. They're all talking about what they should be doing and what you're not. Obviously, that's quite a drastic steps. And at the end of the day, after all the 2 years, the last 2 years where all of our players haven't even had a chance to play and what you're not, I guess that'll be very, very dramatic. But Zac, you have talked about, obviously the club's looking at what the options are and what you're not. Is there any? I mean, where I'm going to say this again, and I know you've explained to it. Where to now? Like, it's not just a case of Football Victoria needs to listen to the clubs, because at the moment they're not, and it certainly seems like they're not. Is irreparable damage being done to the relationship with Football Victoria with some of these clubs? And if that's the case, what needs to happen? Change of leadership at the top, or something else even more dramatic?
Well, look, some of this next phase of the process, Tonchi, may determine what that change may need to look like. Okay. Because if you've got a large group of clubs who are being treated with absolute disrespect and disdain, now again, this is not about sour grapes. but a lack of communication, a lack of wanting to explain a decision that has affected a large group of clubs and the broader football world. This was a fantastic opportunity for Football Victoria to give people a little bit of hope, put a smile on their face. What were they concerned about in terms of making the decision? Why couldn't they have made this decision? They've spoken about their announcement making, obviously filling vacancies on an average points per game system. That was one of the proposals we put to them with respect to the restructure. So what was the harm going to be if they did that across the both the men's and women's leagues? Who was going to be offended by any of that? These are the sorts of questions that Football Victoria need to answer.
Look, also from my side, and I've got to be careful what I say, but how can you have people on a board at the governing body of football in Victoria that's also involved in another club in some way capacity? How does that work? How can you get a fair and reasonable response to anything if you have that in place?
Well, it's a very good question, Craig. Absolutely great question. These are things that will be looked at and potentially exposed, because clearly we all know, none of us are stupid. I mean, if some of these people at Football Victoria think we've got our head in the sand, we've got no idea what goes on at the top level. Some of us actually sat in those chairs many years ago. And sadly, at the moment, with the disrespect that's being shown to our clubs, how else are people meant to feel about the game?
Well, I had a message from someone, won't say where it came from, but let's just say they're in the higher echelons of the MPL structure, saying that the decision had been made and they were going to stick with it. And that was, I don't know, Friday, maybe Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a mess. It's an absolute mess.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, these are the concerns that we now have. And why not make the commitment why not deliver the announcement on the Friday?
Yeah.
What further needed to happen? I've asked that question of Football Victoria directly of the CEO, and I could never get an answer. Why did it take 4 days to communicate a decision? I mean, let's be clear. For those of us who had the privilege of serving on that board papers come up to you, all the documentation is already ready to go. So what was going to take so long for you to communicate that in a memo of half a page, as they did on the Tuesday, 4 days after the board meeting? When we know the football world's been waiting for 6 or 7 weeks on this a decision on this particular issue.
And even worse than that, that a message had come out saying the decision had been made and gone out viral to all the football in. Everybody had
Absolutely.
it. Everybody had it or heard about it.
Correct. So they're the genuine concerns that many of our clubs still do have. And as I said, I'm not going to rest until we explore those options and understand what's going on here, because we can't get an explanation. Well, your listeners can't get an explanation tonight, can they?
Well, absolutely not.
No.
And it's going to be interesting. It's an issue. It's a hot issue. We've talked about it for the better part of the last month, as you said, Zach. It's not an issue that's going to go away easily. And it's interesting to read the last 2 paragraphs of Football Victoria's press statement. Football Victoria will conclude this process by 5 p.m. Monday, 25th of October, providing time to implement these changes ahead of the 2022 season. FV appreciates the feedback received to date in relation to the 2022 rules of competition, and will be in a position to communicate changes with our football community in the coming weeks. Well, let's just hope that this thing does get sorted out in the next few weeks. Otherwise, it could drag into the new year, and certainly it could have a major effect on the football in the 2022 season. It'll be a shame after the last 2 years if that's the case. But definitely not an issue that's going to go away very, very easily, isn't it, Zach?
Absolutely not, mate. And look, none of us from the outset wanted this to be dragged out and drawn out unnecessarily. All of us who are involved in football clubs, what do we want to do? We love football. We love our football clubs. All we want to do is play football uninterrupted. We've all been smashed and destroyed for the last 2 years with something we can't control. Now, our governing body had plenty of control over a lot of this. They've shown clearly that they weren't organised for the season. and then on the back of a number of commitments you make all year, and then you're going to turn your back on a large group of clubs who've put a sensible, rational position to you. And now you're going to ignore that discussion, because again, what was the harm going to be through some sort of restructure? You've just committed to a restructure through another means on a points per basis, or points per game system,
which probably would have happened anyway. Like
absolutely would have happened.
If
so is this a big celebration now on Tuesday?
Yeah.
And as I said earlier, it's fantastic for the handful of clubs that will get rewarded through this mechanism. But why not reward your 40 or 50 or 60 clubs that all deserved to be part of a restructure? It's a half-baked restructure. That's exactly what you've done.
Well, like I said, if it was just any other normal year and you had gaps or holes that needed to be filled, they would still be filled. You would have
it would happen anyway.
Moved up.
Yeah.
It would happen anyway. Exactly. Yeah. So it is nothing new. It's nothing strange that would happen any other year. But obviously, there's a lot more to it. That's for sure. Zac, thank you so much for joining us again. Was it 3 weeks consecutive?
Thank you, gentlemen. You have to send me a cap, Tonchi.
We will actually have it. Courtesy of Macron, one of our Macron suppliers, Macron sponsors.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Again, thanks to everyone who's supported the group to date. I know we'll continue to garner support into the future as we continue to press this issue. We do feel that there's something not quite right here, and we're going to test that. And all we want is to bring. Let's get to the table with Football Victoria. Come and explain the position to us, and give people some hope. Show some leadership. That's what your role is as a board. Show some leadership.
I think that's
the comments are coming through thick and fast, and they're all most of them are in favour of what you're saying. Jeff West definitely wants to get out there and start the protest. I think he's getting down in front of the CFEMEU building. I think, and we'll start it down there and see what happens. But, there's certainly some support of it, mate. So look, good luck to you. Keep us up to date with what's going on, and anytime you want to come on and talk about what's going on, just give us a shout and we'll get you on.
Thank you so much, Craig, Tonchi, and Stephen.
Right. Good on you, Zac.
Very much appreciated.
Thanks, Zac. Best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Zac Gruevski, the chairman of, or chairman, president, I guess, the leader of the spokesperson, of the United Clubs, or United Football Clubs of Victoria. Gents, very, very quickly before we move on to the next part of our show, look, we keep on saying it's an issue, Craig, that's not going to go away, but it's deeper now. It's not just what these guys were talking about. There's a level of trust that's been broken. There's a methodology in delivering the news that seems to be very, very flawed. And look, I just get the feeling this is just the start of things to come. Craig? Yeah,
look, it could get very messy. The fact that Football Victoria don't want to come on and explain, not that I was going to say not that they should have to, but I think given what's gone on in the last few weeks, to come on and give their side of the argument would be something that all football fans in Victoria would want to hear. You know, you've got the situation with the chairperson of the Football Federation involved in the club. Now, I've just had a message from somebody that's come through anonymous to my text. And it's they're talking about, obviously, the chairwoman. No difference to Zac representing the United group, but affiliated with Preston. Maybe he's conflicted. Now, my argument to that is he's a spokesman for 40 odd clubs. So it is very, very different. But look, I think it is going to get messy. I think the truth's got to come out, Tonch. There's something there that doesn't stack up, isn't there?
Yeah, and look, we don't know the full story, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring these, warring parties to the table to explain to everyone. All we can do, and I think a lot of the listeners on the comments can do is speculate. And some of, no doubt some of the speculation probably holds water. A lot of it doesn't. But this is exactly what we want to do. We're trying to provide a forum so that the actual everyone can be transparent. Now, look, Football Victoria up until now have been fantastic, and they've come on the show on numerous occasions. But now, when it really counts, when they should be actually explaining, and if nothing else, if they reiterated what they had come out through with during the week, And they would have, I think, displayed this accessibility. Now, look, Antonella Kerr, the president, she did say early in the week, because of family reasons and with the lockdown lifting, she had already made pre-existing commitments. We understand that, but then get someone else from that organisation to come on. We only found out from the CEO, Kim Ontaliadouros, this morning that he was unable to come on, or that the Football Victoria had nothing more to say. But it's that sort of staying away in your ivory tower, and that perception, Steve, I think is doing a little bit of harm, a lot of harm to the organisation, because they're coming across as though we want to remain, I don't know, distant, away from everything. I'm not sure what.
Look, you look into it and you think, you think FV's had like a brutal couple of years. You go back to last year, they had a lot of people stood down. They had a lot of challenges. They had to get the game going. They had to work with government, release guidelines every other week to try and get people back training, put games on, reschedule games, training, deal with all these things. The clubs have had to deal with just as many challenges, if not more as well. Yeah. So everyone's affected by this in football. The decision has got to be what's best for the good of the game here, and whichever decision the FV come up with, it's we'll take the referee's decision on it. But I think we just would like to hear just the reasons why, a bit of transparency, and the dialogue's going both ways. And I think that's it. And the thing is, when Zac does come on and speak on behalf of the United Football Group, he's made a point of saying about how it's been respectful conversation, and that's a good sign that it's not like warring factions. It's just people wanting to get the best for the good of the game. That's what we're here to talk about tonight as well. We want the best for the good of the game in Victoria. We want it to be back up to where it should be, and we just want everyone to be all on the same page, working together to make that happen. And just a bit of respect and conversation, transparency, discussion, all of those things happening, and hopefully we can get things moving in the right direction again, and hopefully FV can come out and make some statements this week, and maybe we can get someone on the show next time we go onto air from FV. Would be great.
Yeah, and look, we're not having a go at the FFE, our Football Federation in Football Victoria in any way, shape, or form. We're here. We've been a massive supporter of them, and we know they've had, as you said, Steve, we know they've had it tough over the course of the last 2 years. But this really stinks of something that really shouldn't happen. And I think now something, as Zac said, they'll dig a little bit deeper, they'll delve into it, and hopefully we'll find out the real reasons why the text message that was sent out almost 2 weeks ago now got out, with the decision that was made for it then to be turned on its head 4 days later, and why it took 4 days. I think that's the key for this, is why it took 4 days for that decision to come out, and why it had allegedly been changed.
On that note, you are watching episode 79 of the Football Out West show. Major sponsor Caroline Springs, George Cross, and our episode sponsor tonight, Macron Victoria. Big shout out to those two. We're going to take a little bit of a break. When we do return, we're going to be talking to our man all the way in Moscow, our Italian Serie A correspondent, Daniel Pagnoccolo. He'll be joining us very, very shortly. Don't go away, folks. Stay tuned for their second part of our Football Out West show tonight.
Requires effort, sweat and strong will, and Macron knows it. A leading global company with Italian DNA in the production and sale of sportswear. When Macron first entered the sports world in 1971, it was a small yet strong player. Since then, Macron has been growing at a very fast pace, supporting teams, sportsmen and women at all levels, working hard to supply them with the best technical products to help improve their performances. With over 4 million pieces of stock available in our Italian warehouse and an extensive range of on-field, off-field and free-time products, we cater for everyone from amateurs to professional sporting organisations, even referees. Ranked third most prominent football brand by the UEFA, Macron keeps expanding its presence worldwide, including Australia, where we are currently proud partners of Perth Glory, Macarthur FC, Port Adelaide and Parramatta Eels, and more to come. Work hard, play harder, Macron, your next teamwear partner. For more information, visit our website at www.macronvic.com.au or call us on 1800 Macron.
100 Macron. Welcome back to the Football Out West show. It's episode 79, and after listening to the issue that will just not go away, there'll be a lot more to talk about that. It's now time to welcome our next guest all the way from Moscow, and we haven't had him for a while. It's an absolute pleasure to have Daniel Pagnoccolo back joining us here on the Football Out West show. Dan, great to see you and hear from you.
Thanks, guys. Good evening, everyone, and it's great to be back on the show.
It's
good evening, Daniel,
and day over there in Europe. And mate, the Serie A. Let's talk about the Serie A. It's been a few weeks since we've had you on, so bring us up to date with all of the results that have happened overnight. First,
perhaps, Tonchi, could we start with a bit of a preview maybe of Inter Milan Juventus, the biggest game, the Derby d'Italia that's taking place your time today, Daniel, or your time tonight?
Yes, two big games actually tonight. So we've got the Derby della Sole, the Rome-Napoli derby, followed by the big one tonight, Inter Juventus. Juventus are coming back into form. They've had some good results lately. I think Chiellini came out during the week saying that the shock of Ronaldo leaving at the end of August shocked the team. It took them a while to get used to not playing with him. But lately, they've been playing very well. 3 out of 3 in the Champions League. They won the derby, the Torino Derby della Mola, which is a Torino derby, a couple of weeks ago. So they're in good form. They bet Roma 1-0 last week, and it's going to be a really good game tonight. Especially as Inter's dropped a few points. They lost to Lazio last week. So, yeah, as you can see, a loss either way is going to affect both teams in the table.
Some of the games played overnight. Torino defeated Genoa 3-2. Sampdoria 2-1 winners over Spezia. Salernitana went down to Empoli in a very high-scoring game, 2-4. And Sassuolo defeated Venezia 3-1. And then finally Milan defeated Bologna 4-2 with Bologna earning a red card as well. So the game's being played tonight. Atalanta, Udinese. That game kicks off at 9:30. Then we've got 2 midnight games. Verona, Lazio, Fiorentina, Cagliari. And then the big ones, as you mentioned, Dan, Roma, Napoli at 3 a.m. This is Australian time, by the way. And Inter Milan taking on Juventus tomorrow at 5:45 a.m. So there's going to be an all-nighter for a lot of Italian Serie A fans and going through the ladder there. So after round 9, well, Milan may remain on top. Napoli may jump back to the top. That's going to be obviously the most interesting part there. But then there's a whole heap of teams that are vying for that third position as well and wanting to stay in touch with the top 2. And then we've also got, I think, we've also got the is it the second part of the ladder there, and we'll just bring that up on screen there. Taking attention now to the opposite end of the ladder, the teams that are really struggling, that look likely that they'll be fighting for relegation, Dan.
Yes, those teams that are on the bottom 5 are expected. Surprising that Cagliari and Genoa actually have 2 goal scorers in the top 5, the leading goal scorers. So it doesn't really reflect their position on the table with their strikers, João Mario and Matteo Destra. But
it does make us only conceding goals the other side.
Yeah, that's true. Salernitana, those teams actually all play each other Tuesday, so it's going to be very interesting relegation battles. I think Venezia Salernitana will play Tuesday and Spezia Genoa, so we'll see who sort of gets away from that bottom 3 and who will stay in it there. Unfortunately, Ribery hasn't had the... Sorry, there's that...
Some real 6-pointers coming up on Tuesday or Wednesday our time.
That's right, and unfortunately Ribery hasn't had that magic effect yet on Salernitana, but there's still a long way to go in the season, and hopefully we see some magic from him.
Yeah.
Juventus
Dan.
started off the season. Sorry, guys. Juventus started off the season really, really poorly, really struggling, but they're slowly starting to make their way up. Are they hitting the form when it counts? And will they be up there in the top 2, top 3 come season's end? In your opinion?
I think they're hitting their form. The last 4 results have been 1-0 wins, so they're stable at the back. I mean, they've got very good defenders, and they're getting the results. They still have Dybala to come back. He's injured, but like I said before, players have come out like Chiellini and have said the loss of Ronaldo really affected the team. It's taken the younger players to get used to Max Allegri's style, and I mean, if they beat Zenit in the next Champions game, they're through already into the round of 16. So they've got more time to focus on the league and start creeping up the ladder again. Hopefully their poor start doesn't affect, they didn't give them the leaders much of a head start, but it could come to effect later in the season.
Definitely. Dan, bit of midweek Champions League action for a few Italian clubs. One of the exciting games was Man United 3, Atalanta 2. Did you catch that game, and did you think Atalanta was a bit unlucky at all, or probably deserved result for the home side?
I was watching the other one, Milan-Porto, at the time, but I was following it. It seems like Atalanta started off very well, 2-0 at halftime, but unfortunately, I just saw the scores changing. I watched the highlights, but again, Cristiano Ronaldo saved the day.
Well, I guess just on that Milan-Porto game, what were your thoughts on that? Milan would have been hoping for a win over there, and it didn't work out for them. They only managed 1 shot on target.
Yes, a lot of injury problems at Milan. A lot of players were out, so it was always going to be tough. A lot of players that weren't match fit. Ibrahimovic is just coming back. Coco was playing but not match fit either. So it's always going to be a struggle. Tomori, unfortunately, had a very, very poor game when he's been excellent throughout the whole season. Their goal was dubious. It could have been a foul beforehand, but Porto were the better team all night. They probably should have scored more than 1 goal. So Milan have got their backs to the wall, and it looks like they're going to have an early exit of the Champions League.
Talking to teams that scored lots of goals.
Sorry, go.
Sorry, Steve. Talking to teams that scored lots of goals. How is Italy faring, or Roma fans faring after Roma's abysmal defeat on the road to Bodo Glimt with a squad valued at 23 million throughout the whole of the group, losing 6-1, Dan. 6-1.
Well, it's 6-1. It's not an unusual result for Rome. They've lost in recent times 7-1 to Fiorentina. 7-1.
Yeah, but at least they're in the Serie A, mate. This team is in the Pub League. It's in the Dog and Duck.
Well, I think Mourinho was thinking, I mean, it's not going to make much of a difference to the top 2 position in that Conference League. So he sent a second-tier team up to the north of Norway. This place is nowhere near Oslo. I feel for the Roman fans. A lot of them actually drove to Norway. They drove to the game. So one of the players, really? I saw after one of the players wanted to give their tops to the fans, and they were furious and refused it. I mean, they traveled all that way just to see that. I mean,
you'd be livid, wouldn't you?
Yes. I mean, there's pressure on Mourinho to get a result tonight. I mean, they lost to Juventus. They lost the derby against Lazio as well. So he needs to get a result tonight to get back in favour with the Roman faithful.
Yeah, he wasn't too happy after that Juventus game as well. He didn't respond too well, because I think they had a goal that was an advantage goal that could have been allowed, that was taken back for a penalty, and they missed it, if I'm correct.
Yeah, Chesney's come out. Talking about players that started poor. He started off very, very poor this season. Now he's a magician in front of the goal. So, yeah, Mourinho came out and said that the better team lost on the day, and that's football. So one of his classic comments after a loss. So.
And then he also said this week, I'd rather lose a match 6-1 than lose 6 matches 1-0. So that up as well.
That's a quote and a half. Dan, thanks, mate, for joining us. How is it over there in Moscow? Things are getting cold.
It's going all right.
Is it the harsh northern hemisphere winter starting to settle in, or it's still not too bad at the moment?
Unfortunately, we had our first taste of snow Wednesday. Luckily, it melted on Thursday, but it's coming. Winter is coming.
Oh, we've had that over the last weekend or so here in Victoria. It seems to be all sorts of weather. It's spring, but it's sometimes it's very, very strange weather. Mate, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to your next appearance on our show. And it looks like it's going to be an interesting next few weeks in the Serie A competition, and especially this week, midweek, with some of those 6-pointers at the foot of the table. So we look forward to seeing what eventuates from that.
Before you go, Dan, give us your prediction for the big game in the Premier League overnight.
This one, I think
that's Liverpool. The West Ham Tottenham game, obviously.
Talking about the West Ham game, yeah.
I think Liverpool, they've been playing very good football. So it's going to be close, but I think Liverpool will get the win over there. Also, a Classico tonight as well, so it's a great night for football.
Yeah, and La Classique in France as well, if you don't mind too. Now, just checking, Dan, it's 41 hours from Rome to Bodo Glimt, so that is quite a return trip.
Whoa!
Yeah,
that's 41 hours one way.
To watch your team lose 6-1. That's bad, isn't it?
Yeah, hopefully they get a better result tonight, because Milan will stay on top if that's the case.
Well, it's going to be an interesting evening of football tonight. So it could be an all-nighter for a lot of avid Euro football fans. Dan, once again, thank you very much for joining us. All the very best, and we look forward to having you on the show again in the not too distant future.
Thanks, guys. Have a good evening, and I'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks, Dan.
Dan Pagnoccolo. Gents, let's finish it off with the EPL. We'll quickly get onto the EPL. But Craig, are we going to open up the lines as well? So if anyone wants
if anybody wants to come on, they can give us a shout, and we'll get them on air. Yep,
we will. And there's the number. The talkback lines are open: 0497 151 234. Give us a buzz. Stay as civilized as can be expected, because there's a lot of issues to talk about. But give us a ring on 0497 151 234. Anything you'd like to talk about in the world of football, the debacle that is the Football Victoria 2022 competition structure announcement, if you like, or obviously the Matildas last night, or what's happening over in Europe. Maybe you're going to give us your tip of what is going to happen in the big one, the Manchester United versus Liverpool clash. And gents, let's talk about that one first of all. Steve, let's go through some of the results overnight, and I'll leave that number up there, the talkback lines. But let's go through some of the results played last night.
Yeah, there were some high-scoring games. As we said, 27 goals within the 6 games that were played, plus that game that was on Saturday morning our time, which saw Arsenal get a 3-1 win over Aston Villa, and the youngster Smith Rowe looks pretty good in that one as well. Chelsea in the early game last night, a hat-trick for Mason Mount. Poor old Norwich, they didn't fare too well in that one. Palace and Newcastle are 1-1, as was the case with Leeds and Wolves. Now, how about this one as well, Craig? Watford 5, Everton 2. How did you see that one?
It was a strange game, but I have to say, big credit to Watford. I watched the game this afternoon, and Watford certainly came to life in the second half. It was just a strange game. Everton weren't at the races. The defending was absolutely abysmal. And I think they scored 4 goals in the last 10 minutes. Watford, which is a huge win for them. If you look, they
must be fit.
They must be. They
must be. Yeah,
they were. Everton. Benitez is certainly one for having a strong spine, and their spine had gone missing tonight or last night. They were just awful. And that was a big game for Everton. If you look at the table, would have got them back into that fourth position. But the other side of the coin is, Watford have moved up, 4 or 5 places because of that. So, they bought in a new manager in our
Claudio
Italian
Ranieri,
who worked miracles at Leicester, as we all know, and had a stuff in last week, lost 5-0 to Man City, but has gone away to Everton and scored 5 this week. So let's see what happens. But Everton were very poor.
Yeah, and well done to Josh King with the hat-trick in that game for Watford as well. As Craig said, 4 goals in the last 10 minutes. Pretty good. Another entertaining one, Southampton 2, Burnley 2. Man City, too good for Brighton, as we would have expected, 4 goals to 1 there. So 3 exciting games, all pretty exciting games to look forward to tonight. A couple of midnight kickoffs to whet your appetite for that 2:30 game, Man United and Liverpool, if you can stay up for that one, if you're not working tomorrow maybe.
Yeah. Now, Steve, we'll go back to the ladder, and that team in 19th position. Well, the new ownership structure has changed, or the structure has changed. New owners at Newcastle, very rich, very rich owners. Mate, who do you think? Who can you honestly see the new owners of Newcastle targeting in the coming months, particularly when the transfer window is sort of?
They've got to find it. They've got to find a manager, haven't they? First, now that they've sacked Steve Bruce, I think is the first thing they want to do. They don't want it to be haphazardly signing star players and having some sort of Northern English Galacticos that's sort of rudderless or not really well, mastered. So. I'm not too sure about that. We'll have to wait and see. That obviously, the first challenge is going to be that they need to avoid relegation, because at the moment that's the task at hand. And then can they build a squad for next season to get them towards Europe if they can spend the mega bucks that they've got from the Middle East?
Craig, any thoughts?
Sorry, Tonch.
I was going to say, Craig,
on this, Steve. I think the manager is first and foremost now. Who's available? He's going to be keen. There's going to be there's obviously lots to talk about. Maybe Gerrard. You've got the Italian manager. Was that Man City? What's his name? The Italian national manager. It'll come to me in a minute. I think first and foremost, they need to get that manager. They can't sign anybody for 2 months, so they've got the players they've got who are clearly not good enough. They've sacked Steve Bruce, who's had his critics, but he's always finished in sort of 12th, 11th, 12th place. Not a big fan of his football, but sometimes you can only coach with the cattle you've got. And he's got a fair poor set of cattle there, with the exception of the striker, who's a fantastic player. But they're in trouble, and it's going to take a very, very good manager to turn that around.
Some of those favourites at the moment, 3-1 favourite Paulo Fonseca, Eddie Howe, Lucien Favre, Frank Lampard, Roberto Martinez, Stevie G, Graham Jones, Antonio Conte, Brendan Rodgers, and Unai Emery are all mentioned as the top 10 favourites there to get the gig. So who knows? That could be anyone.
Interesting. Well, have we got anyone on the lines yet, Craig?
No. Everybody's.
Okay. We're going to give a last call to people. 0497 151 234. We probably had a lot of people switch off after Zac Gruevski finished up talking. He's a very resolute man, and I'm sure that the United Football Clubs of Victoria is a very resolute organisation from what we've heard, and we certainly have not heard the last of it. But next week, gents, we are with the Melbourne Cup long weekend. Big announcement now with the Melbourne Cup long weekend and the newfound freedom that has thankfully enveloped Melbourne and the state. We are going to be taking a 1-week break. So, folks, we won't be going to air next Sunday. We will be back in 2 weeks' time. Hopefully by that stage, Craig, we'll have a little bit more of a clearer picture as to what awaits us in 2022 on the local front.
Yeah, absolutely. With obviously the restrictions now coming an end, people can start getting out and doing their training, which is fantastic. And like you said, we may have some more news on the football front when we come back in a fortnight's time.
Awesome. All right, gents. Well, thank you very much. On that note, we are going to wrap things up, and it has been an absolute pleasure having your company. And also to all you listeners and viewers out there, has been an absolute pleasure having you guys. So good night, gents, and enjoy the next fortnight. I suppose we won't be seeing you guys until in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, you too, mate. Have a nice break.
Yeah, enjoy yourself wherever you're doing, wherever you're going. Where you going camping, aren't you?
Oh, that's the plan. Hopefully, we don't know yet. We'll see.
Check it down next weekend.
Hopefully, the weather's going.
It always rains on weekends at the moment.
Oh, at the moment, doesn't it? Or you just can't make
perfect on
time.
Wednesday.
Anyway.
It's terrible on weekends.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, gents. Thanks very much for that. Thank you, folks, once again for joining us here on the Football Out West show. Has been an absolute pleasure. Big shout out to our sponsors, Caroline Springs George Cross Football Club, our major sponsor, and also to the Macron Victoria, our episode sponsor. A big shout out to them as well. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks' time for episode 80 of the Football Out West show.